And then I started going to more doctors and more psychiatrists and more psychologists. And then some of them, they said, you've got GAD, clinical depression, phobic anxiety, panic disorder, OCD. And I was like, I was fine. Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
And then if I asked them what to do, they would just say, you can manage it. If you're ever going on shoot, then we can like put you on medication, so that it doesn't get too bad. But yeah, you pretty much have to live with it now. Just yoga, meditation, all of that bullshit. In 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, half of 23, it was a lot of struggle emotionally, physically, even because anxiety is such a physical issue, which people don't talk about. But now when I think about it, I feel like everything's a joke.
Yeah.
If I could recover from anxiety, and I still do have symptoms sometimes. It's like, before the call I was a little anxious, but that's normal. Sometimes I do have symptoms of anxiety, but I know that my body is I've recovered, but that little bit, it'll go with time, and it's not a topic of concern for me anymore. I'm really looking forward to so many things in life, whether it's work or just so many great things that I couldn't think about before.
What's up, everybody? I have a great guest today. I have Devyani here, and Devyani has been great uh, to come on this channel and share her story. She was in the mentorship and she did really well. And I just wanted to thank her for coming on here. Devyani, welcome.
Thank you so much, Shaan. My pleasure.
And Devyani, I think getting right to it, the question that everyone has, um, when you were in the anxiety cycle, what were your biggest symptoms?
I had really bad panic attacks. For me, the physical symptoms were very, very debilitating. And they were pretty much constant 24/7. I had about 3 to 4 panic attacks a day. Almost every day, I woke up with a panic attack. I had intrusive thoughts that were actually not so problematic because the physical symptoms were so debilitating that the intrusive thoughts were just like, whatever. Um, and everything else. But yes, I would say physical symptoms and panic attacks were the worst of them all.
Gotcha, gotcha. And how long ago did this start?
Well, it started back in 2018, in Feb. I remember it very well. And I remember waking up this one morning and I had this horrible feeling. I could feel it in my body, I could feel it in my tummy, and it was just everywhere. And I'd never experienced something like that before. Maybe once when I dated someone and they broke up with me when I was in the 10th grade. But then that went away. But this one just didn't stop. Yeah.
Got it, got it. So it started in 2018. Were you experiencing it since? Did it like subside? Did it go up? Did it go down? Or was it pretty constant?
No, 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 no. It was constant. I was put on medication for a bit. I was put on SSRIs because I didn't live with my family. I lived away. So my mom said, just get on meds because that'll be better for you. And while I was on those meds, I was better. I didn't have as many symptoms, but I still wasn't myself. I didn't have as much anxiety while I was on the meds. But after I stopped the meds, it came back.
Mm. And how did it start?
Okay, so I had actually gone for a concert with a couple of my friends, and they were doing this thing called ecstasy. It's called MDMA as well, and I just tried it with them because I was like, it's a party thing, it's a once in a lifetime thing. I'm not going to do it again, and I'm also very averse to things like alcohol and weed in general. I don't really do these things much, so I do realize that popping Molly was a big deal, but I did it anyway, and my friends did tell me that be prepared for a downer because it does get bad sometimes, but you'll be okay in a day or two. And so I did that and I went home the next day and I was fine. I slept through the day. And then the next day when I woke up, it started.
And did it start with like a panic attack or what exactly?
It started with this feeling of impending doom. I didn't understand what was happening because there was like a lump in my throat and like butterflies in my stomach, like a pittish, just a very weird feeling, like a hollow feeling. And so I said, you know what, it's just a downer, it's just a downer. A day went by, 2 days, 3 days, a week went by, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then And I remember going to the ER because I was so confused by what had happened. And then I just started getting these panic attacks out of nowhere. And yeah, and then the doctors just put me on meds. It just didn't stop.
And so what did the doctor say? Did he say you had like anxiety, or what did they exactly tell you when all that happened?
Well, Shaan, unfortunately, I went to so many doctors. I went to psychologists, I went to psychiatrists, and all they said to me was, yeah, it's because of the E that you've popped. And are you sure you've only done it once? Do you do it regularly? I said, I just did it that one time. And then a lot of them were very confused. They said, how can it happen by just, doing it once? So they said, it's just a side effect of the thing that you did. And then I did listen to them for a bit, but it just didn't go away. So then I went to a psychologist in my college who sat me down and he spoke to me. He was probably the best psychologist I've ever found through my journey. And he told me, you have really terrible anxiety, and I think you should go and get meds. So that was the first time he told me that you've got anxiety. And and he said, it can get triggered by these things. Yeah.
Got it. And was he, and so when you, I'm assuming after that you went on meds
I
very
did
short.
go on.
Got it.
I went on a bunch of meds. My doctors gave me benzodiazepines. They gave me SSRIs, SNRIs, everything, and I just kind of started cutting them off on my own. I cut out the benzos because they just made me very sleepy, but the SSRIs I stuck to because they really made me feel better. They pretty much numbed me out, so I didn't really feel too good or too bad, but it's the only thing that worked for me back then. And nobody really told me that my nervous system was sensitized. That concept was completely alien to me, and it breaks my heart that nobody, even doctors who are qualified, don't know about it. They just say, it's anxiety. And after that you're like, yeah, so what do I do about it? I know it's anxiety, what can I do? And they're like, it's just anxiety. But it's so debilitating, right? You almost want it to be something else.
Exactly. And I had the same effect with medication. It just kind of numbed me out. I felt like I wasn't feeling much of anything. But my biggest thing was is like, okay, like, but what do I do to make this go away? Like, I haven't experienced this before. Like, is this always something I'm gonna have to manage? And that
Exactly.
was for me the biggest frustration, which was like they were just kind of saying the same thing. It's anxiety. There's not much you can do, and I just wouldn't believe it. I was like, no,
Yeah.
like this is something else. Did you ever have that on your journey?
All the time. I said these people don't know what they're talking about. So after I went on those meds, I was much better. I didn't really have as many symptoms. So then I stopped thinking about it. But then, so I'll tell you the timeline. It started in 2018. I was put on meds for a really long time. I quit my medication in 2022
Hmm.
and it came back because I realized that the medicines were just making me very, very numb. I wasn't feeling much. It just wasn't cutting it for me. So I stopped them altogether. And then when it came back, it was much worse. And then I started going to more doctors and more psychiatrists and more psychologists. And then some of them, they said, you've got GAD, clinical depression, phobic anxiety, panic disorder, OCD. And I was like, I was fine. Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
And then if I asked them what to do, they would just say you can manage it. If you're ever going on shoot, then we can like put you on medication, so that it doesn't get too bad. But yeah, you pretty much have to live with it now. Just yoga, meditation, all of that bullshit. Sorry, but it is.
It's okay. It's okay. Um, and I know you mentioned shooting. Like, could you describe a little bit about what you do so the audience knows?
So,
Yeah.
I'm an actor, and that requires me to sometimes travel a lot. And I'm in different places shooting for different projects. And so, when I told my doctor, and this was a very, very qualified doctor in my city, and she said that, yeah, don't worry, whenever you're traveling, we'll put you on meds so you can manage better. And I said, I don't want to manage, like, I want to recover from this. And she's like, no.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
she didn't say it, but I
Mm.
sensed it. And
That's what I,
also,
yeah, go ahead.
if I may add, she also said that, has anyone in your family ever experienced it? I said, yeah, my mom had it once, but she recovered from it. And then she said, so you've got family history of mental illness. That's maybe why you have it, maybe some past trauma. Yeah.
Well, I experienced all that too. It was
Yeah.
very frustrating. And that's why it was like, for me, it was
Very.
almost easier to believe that the doctors are missing something. Because I'm like, if
Yeah.
you're looking at it and you can't see, then like it's something else. Like there's no way. Like I don't think anybody could just say you can live like this. And
Exactly. You
I was
can't.
like, no way.
You possibly cannot live like that. I didn't want to live for a very long time because it was too painful. And I decided not to go back on my meds. And my parents begged me to take them again. They said, listen, you need to be on your medicines. People need medicines for different things. Like some people take it for their blood pressure. You just need it for your mental health. And I said, I don't believe that because I don't believe I have any disorder that I cannot fix. I don't believe that I'm a broken person inherently. I know there's a way out. I was hopeful throughout. And I think that's what got me out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So now shifting to your recovery journey, what ended up happening in terms of before joining the program? Can you tell me a little bit before joining the program? So you were on meds, you got off of it. Um, it came back worse than ever. What happened after that?
So in 2022, when I completely stopped all my medication, it came back worse than ever. And so all of 2022 was spent struggling with anxiety. And then 2023 happened. And again, the first half of it, I was really struggling. Um, so I pretty much lost hope. And honestly, I was going to go back on meds because it was getting really hard for me. Also, I'm a very ambitious person and I want to do a lot of things with my life, and I wasn't being able to do any of it. I was pretty much locked at home. I came back to my parents for 3, 4 months. It was really heartbreaking for them to see me go through it as well. But it was pretty much when I'd given up hope. Honestly, I was hopeful throughout. I told myself I'll be okay. But by the end of it, I said, you know what? Maybe I just need those medicines again to feel normal. Um, and I was prepared. I said, it's fine. If it has to be that way, it is going to be that way. And then I just, like I went to the church and I was just praying to God. And I had a little bit of I don't know, I was feeling very emotional and I really, really prayed. And I did everything to recover, right? I did a lot of yoga, I did meditation. I used to pray a lot, thinking that someone would hear me and help me out. So I remember I was just sitting and I was praying to God. I said, just please get me out of this. If you do, I'll be very, very grateful. And I went back home and I called up my mom and I said, I'm going to go to my doctor and I am going to take those medicines again because I do realize I'm probably being a burden on all of you. It's not fair to you either. So I was going to do that. But I just, I was on my phone, I was going through YouTube and I just typed, I believe in Shivji, he's my God. So I just typed Shivji helps with anxiety. And I found a video of you with Shiv. And so I saw it. And first, when I saw it, I was like, this can't be true. It's too good to be true. Like, this is just too good to be true. And then I saw one video, I saw another, I saw another, I saw another. I got obsessed with it. And everything that you said resonated so much with me. And for the first time, I felt heard. And I just knew I had to be in the mentorship. There were no two ways about it. Yeah.
Right.
I
Okay.
didn't even think twice.
Huh?
I'm saying I didn't even think twice. I just said I'm
Yeah.
going to put this. I'm in.
um, yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely wild. And so, okay, now you joined the mentorship.
Yes.
Honestly, how was your experience through the recovery journey in the mentorship? What were the ups? What were the downs? Like, tell me all about it.
Honestly, Shaan, for me, it was a very different journey because I did feel like I found you guys. It was I don't know, because I really prayed so hard for it and I finally found people who understood me. So for me, the moment I started, I just knew I was in the right place because there were so many people. I was very I wasn't very comfortable with the group calls aspect of it. I was quite doubtful about that. But then when I joined the mentorship and I actually saw everyone and I heard their stories, I understood that this is not something that's just happening to me. It's happening to a lot of people around me. That gave me hope, it gave me confidence. I was pretty much sorted from the day I joined. I said, this is it. I just knew I was going to recover because so many people, everyone was recovering, right? So there was no doubt. I think it was very smooth in the sense, of course, I had my emotions and I had high anxiety days, but I knew I was in safe hands. So yeah.
I thought your journey was incredibly smooth as well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was just like, I think because the team talks about like the members, right? We meet every Wednesday. Um and we would look at your name and then we would just be like, yeah, she's good.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, she's all right. She's fine. She's fine. But you did really well. And so that's what I always try to dive into. I'm like, okay, like Devyani did really well. Like I mean, obviously you were more connected with the mentors, but like from like a higher level, like I didn't really see you fumble. I'm sure you had those moments like you mentioned where it was kind of like a roller
Shiv
coaster. But from
Shiv
what
knows I did.
yeah, really? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's crazy because you found Shiv's first video. Like the first video you found was Shiv. That's insane. And I remember
Yeah.
Shiv's first call too, when Shiv first joined. So it's like this like amazing, amazing thing. Um,
Fine.
but to me, it just seems like there was a lot of faith from the get-go.
Yeah.
And that really helps a lot because,
Yeah.
it makes
It
you
was
feel, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
it was divine. It was almost like divine intervention. I prayed for it and I got it. So for me, I knew that this is something that's been given to me. And I that maybe that's why it was smooth. If I just found it randomly or a friend told me about it, maybe I wouldn't be so sure of it, you
Yeah.
know? It's because of the way I found you guys that I just knew I'd be fine.
It's really interesting, but like when I found out it was truly anxiety, I'd been having people tell me it was anxiety for a long time while I was struggling. But when I really believed it was anxiety was actually on my birthday. I was celebrating my birthday in the ER. And
Yeah, I know.
and I kind of looking back felt like it was divine intervention. I was kind of like, it did feel like that. It felt like here's the direction. Like you're messing this up, so like let me just push you a little bit here. Now go. Um, and so I
Yeah.
really felt like that too. Um, what would you say to somebody that right now is like in the roughest moments, kind of like how you were when you were kind of losing hope, or you're just like, I'm not sure what's going on. Like, what kind of advice would you give that person?
I would say two things. I've really thought about this question because I knew you would ask me this. And I would say two things that are most important. Number one is that recovery is not possible, it's inevitable. You will recover, like 100%. Your body is dying to go back to its normal state. Being sensitized is not normal. Having anxiety as a state is not normal. So you will recover. And the second thing that I like to say is that just trusting the process is very, very important. And it doesn't mean that you'll always believe that it works. But for me, what really helped me was every time I thought that, the process is probably, every time I thought I was unique or that maybe this was not going to work, I treated it as an intrusive thought then and there. I just shoved it under the anxiety umbrella because then you'll just keep spiraling. You just have to have blind faith because this will work 100%. So yeah, number one, you will recover, and number two, just respond. That's all it is. And another thing I'd like to add that your response will look different when your anxiety levels are higher. So when you're feeling more anxious, you will probably not be able to respond as well as you would if you didn't have as much anxiety.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. I mean, um, we've always thought you did really well, and you helped a lot of people in the mentorship. What is life looking like now for you? How are things going for you now?
I'm just, I'm in a, the mentors would always tell us that once you start recovering, life becomes more important. And that's what's happening to me. It felt like I was zoned out for such a long time. I don't even remember what life felt like in 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, half of 23. It was a lot of struggle emotionally, physically, even because anxiety is such a physical issue, which people don't talk about. But now when I think about it, I feel like everything's a joke.
Yeah,
If I could recover from anxiety, and I still do have symptoms sometimes. It's like, before the call I was a little anxious, but that's normal. Sometimes I do have symptoms of anxiety, but I know that my body is I've recovered, but that little bit, it'll go with time, and it's not a topic of concern for me anymore. I'm really looking forward to so many things in life, whether it's work or just so many great things that I couldn't think about before. And I'm just very grateful. Honestly, I'm very grateful and hopeful.
Well, we're really glad we were, part of your recovery journey. And I always remind people, especially on these calls, it's like you put in the work. You really did. Like we were able to like point you in the right direction and guide you, but you did it all, right? And like I don't think nobody can take that away. And you should really feel, incredibly proud of yourself. And we're very proud, and honestly, we're very like honored to be a part of your journey. And we're really excited for your future. Me in particular, I'm like very excited for your future. And
Thank you. And I am for yours. I really am, because the work that you're doing, it's absolutely monumental. I don't think anyone else can do it better than you guys. You guys have the best team. I mean, it's wonderful that something like this exists in the world. And I just wish that everyone knows about you. Trust me, I'm like your fan. I tell everyone about Shaan and BBP. I'm like, oh my God, anxiety, just check this guy out. I'm not even joking. All my friends know who you are. So
that's flattering because you're the actress. So like I'm like, oh,
but
I'm flattered
but
for that.
no,
Yeah.
but the work you do, it's absolutely incredible. And so many people come up to me now. So many of my friends were sensitized. And when I shared my story with them, they told me, oh my God, dude, I feel the same way. Or I have felt this way for such a long time. And then when I tell them, your nervous system is sensitized, they're just like, what? Huh? What does that mean? So it's yeah, I think it's very important to spread this information so people know about it, and to focus on recovery as opposed to just managing and coping and knowledge. I think now we need to move to um, something better and bigger, which is focusing on recovery.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Quick question on my end, and we're not gonna put this in the video, but like, did you ever feel like because you were sort of in the limelight that this was stuff that you couldn't share, like your journey and like anything like that? Did you ever feel like that at all?
Not at all. Never.
That's amazing.
Because every second person I know has it. I'm not even joking. And more people are going to have it, because I see the way people respond to the stresses in their life, and it's ridiculous. And I can just sit there, I'm looking at them and I'm like, you're going to sensitize yourself. Stop it.
Yeah.
you know So everyone, a lot of people have it. It's very, very common. When I started talking to people about it, I realized every second, every third person was struggling. Of course, the levels may differ, but it's very common, which is sad. But
It's yeah, no, I get you. I think when I was going through the journey, it convinced me that I was the only person going through it. I don't know why.
yes, yeah,
Like the craziest thing, Devyani, for me was one of the, like what like making like videos on it. Like I felt like if I made videos on this and people knew what I went through, they would treat me differently. Even though I knew there was nothing wrong and I'd be fine. I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like there's nothing there. Like I'm fine. I'm good now. But I always felt like they know my story though. They're like, oh, like let's not say it from the Shaan. But I never felt that at all. Not once. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. It's kind of like what you were saying. Oh man, like I went through this too, man. Like I'm going through this.
yeah.
Or if anything, there's like a respect. It's like, yo, like you shared something like that, like that's amazing. Like that puts you in a very like vulnerable, like honest place. And
True. And
yeah,
also, Shah, another thing, there are very few people who talk about recovery. Even a lot of people or actors or, public figures that I follow, when they talk about mental health, they talk about their struggles with it. They talk about coping mechanisms a lot. They talk about medication, which is great for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for everyone. And not everyone wants to be on them. I don't really see people talk about recovery, which is where you come in. And
yeah,
which is where people who have recovered come in. Because then when you tell someone that, listen, you could have been going through this for maybe 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You can recover from it. 100% you can recover from it. And that changes the game, because they feel so hopeful. And I remember talking to a friend and she couldn't believe it. And now she's doing really well. She's
that's
actually
awesome.
getting, yeah,
That's amazing. That's incredible. You're like a I'm a panic mentor too.
I
Uh,
am in the
what do you think?
background.
What do you think? I'm curious of your thoughts on it because you're in the industry. Like, why do you think more? celebrities, actors, and this stuff kind of talk about it more from like, I'm struggling with mental health as well, like, or, here's some coping mechanisms. It's post
Because
recovery.
I truly believe they don't know how to recover. That's why.
Yeah.
They just don't know it. And it's unfortunate because these are people who have access to the best doctors in the world. And so that says a lot. They definitely don't know it. And a lot of people just recover on their own because they are applying the same methods. They're accepting it and they're letting it be there. But a lot of these celebrities and other people who talk about mental health and they talk about coping or being on medication for it. And I know this can be a little controversial, but even depression, in my opinion, it's sensitization.
Hmm.
That's what I feel truly, because I had been diagnosed with clinical depression as well. And I think it's all intertwined. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. Devyani, this has been an awesome chat. Is there anything that you wanted to share before we wrap this up? Anything that's been on your mind that you've been wanting to share?
I'm just really, I think I've pretty much said everything. I'm really grateful for you guys. And I hope to see you guys reach new heights and that everyone should know about what you do. I think that's all I really, really want for you guys because it's truly amazing. I mean, Shaan, the number of people you're helping just by putting out content and the number of people I've been able to help because of your content, I have nothing to say, honestly. I can't. It's just because I know where I was and I didn't want to live. And if I hadn't found you guys, I can't even imagine what my life would be like. So I'm just very, very grateful.
Thank you. Thank you. And like I said, we're grateful to be part of your journey and for you to do so well in your future, like I mentioned. So
Thank you so
uh,
much.
I hope everybody enjoyed this video. There's some resources below, including other success stories and stuff. I'll see you in the next video.